Hello, it is the Goofy Goobers series finale on group videos. I am Tori Mac.
Yes,
I'm
the
Diego.
studio, they canceled us after one season because our show wasn't very successful. So this is it, guys. This is it. We won't be back.
Viewer.
I'm Martin.
Diego.
I'm Amanda. Okay,
So,
and we are talking about DocuDramas and the road to Guantánamo today.
And all right, so the first thing that came to mind when looking at the prompt and how we're thinking about how can any dramatization truly be completely truthful, and how I noticed in the article, like it's talking about where we think the phrase "the camera never lies." While that's true, we don't know that what the camera is showing is truthful for the way it's being portrayed, especially if it's reenacted. So
well, I think it's interesting because like it's definitely trying to have a point come across, right? And the way they have certain, because some things are going to be actually less dramatic, right, in the film, because some things you just can't, there's no way you can possibly ever capture the violence, the brutality of something. So I'm thinking of when there's the bombs coming down, the aftermath. There's no way to capture that suffering of like walking through a desert of people with their legs blown off, with like their stomach coming out because they've been hit by explosions. Like, so that's not going to be as dramatic because they can't. There's no way they can fictionally depict anything as they just can't. But then certain things like the scenes where the soldiers are yelling, those could be amped up, right, to a point. But then like it's also like, why are they amping up those certain scenes? Like, because there's definitely there's a point that's being made. So I think
Right. I think it's done to like create an antagonist, I guess, like to create like a kind of divide between like, I guess not good and evil necessarily, but like create a protagonist being like the guys, and then an antagonist, and like I guess not necessarily like just like the U.S., but I guess maybe like the West, since there's also like British soldiers there as well. Yeah, that's kind of like the purpose of like their possibly exaggerated like brutality, I guess.
well, the article touched on like how it's not really a lot of docudramas really focused on like macro histories. So this film was not about the like these extremist groups, the history of like what was going on between America and like this war in Afghanistan. It really wasn't about that. It was about these group of friends. I think it was like four. It was really about them and their experience being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and also, you know, being Muslim themselves, and so looking a certain way, and because if they were white, they would have been let out immediately, obviously. Like, I mean,
Right.
like, so I mean, so it's like a macro history looking at that, and then what that says about the history as a whole. So I thought
Right.
that was also interesting. And I think when they did a lot of things where they would show like what's going on over in Pakistan, right? But they would have the news from the United States. And that was something I noticed like immediately. That was like this like crossing like international, like meshing them together, like doing it in a way that you're like kind of like seeing like how these two parts of the world are experiencing this history. And that felt very yeah, but it also, the movie felt very like, it felt like very like it was laying it on thick. Like it wasn't, and listen, I do not like the American military. I don't like any military, but since I do live here, I'm gonna say, like, I think we do horrible things. But they were laying it on really thick. Like you were like, okay, like if you guys like didn't pick that up, like I felt like they were just kind of yeah, it felt a little like at times
Overdone,
like
possibly.
Yeah.
overdone, definitely.
Yeah.
I
think
think
it's
even
But
then, like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
Okay. I think like even then they definitely had to sugarcoat like what act like they
Oh,
didn't
definitely. Oh,
they had like
definitely.
there wasn't enough violence. If I don't know, that's the only way I can put it. Not
I
enough.
thought there was
like,
enough, but I think it was also like which side they were showing, because like
right.
the other side's bad too. Like they're both bad. Like I
Yeah.
feel like we've gotten to this point in our society where if we're like, we don't want to like mention the horrible things the other side has done, because if we do, we'll feel like we're suddenly like these like conservative like, but like that's not, both sides are horrible. And I feel like the movie kind of didn't really touch on the other, but then again, I think that's also because it was focusing on these people instead of just these 4 people instead of the war as a whole. So
Well, I think when you think of like when the movie was released, right, like 2005, 2006, right, like there wasn't that many people that were like disagreeing with the Americans at the time, right? Like there was enough media
exactly,
talking
yeah,
about
that's a
like
good
how
point.
bad these extremist group was, and like
Right.
Islamophobia was very kind of rampant. It still is today, but like it was definitely kind of at a peak in like early 2000s. So I think, I don't know, contextualizing it, it kind of makes sense.
Right, and I do think it was probably dramatized a little, but I do think it probably was that bad how they were treated there.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I think the camp was probably pretty accurate. I think maybe like the interactions like person to person was a little like, I don't know. I really at some point, like, I think what stood out to me was like that first interaction with the American guard or like the American soldier, which was like I felt like that was like kind of a bit, I don't know. It was a little shocking, I guess, at first. Like it's not what I expected it to be.
Yeah, I was also thinking, because like you guys mentioned, there was a lot that wasn't shown in general from what we can assume. But what if we think about what other things might be missing? Because sometimes this dramatization in general with films, there's not even just like the violence that was missing. Like there definitely could have been more to the story that wasn't told. Like there could have been like more interactions, or they could have been tortured in other various ways. And they're like other people they could have met, or like we don't know the entire story, and we probably never will because they probably don't know it themselves.
Another thing is like that I feel like I don't really know if this like means anything, but the people when it would cut to them talking about what happened, they don't show any emotion, and I'm wondering wondering what that if that means anything.
Yeah, I did kind of notice that. I was like, wow, they don't seem that
it's
traumatized, which obviously everyone,
and like,
some people they won't express it in like a way that's
right.
easy to pick up, but it was all 4 of them. Like that's kind of like, they were all like kind of the same. And I don't know, was that them, the actual people, or were those actors too? Those were the actual people?
The people talking were the actual
Yes.
people.
Okay, yeah, because I was
Another thing is that sorry, one of them said that they didn't regret the experience.
that I was kind of
How
like,
do you regret that?
that felt like trauma. That felt like trauma to me.
Maybe
like
it
trying to
helped him.
somehow,
It helped him see the reality of the world, like firsthand.
but that definitely felt like somehow trying to put like a good spin on like, because like 4 years of his life gone being like tortured in a war camp. Like there's that I did pick that up.
It's like I could try to think of another way, like you don't regret the experience. This is coming back to how films are made and dramatized in general. That line itself could very easily have been taken out of context for all we know, if you think about it.
True, they could have.
Yeah, that's another good point.
And he could have like, maybe he was talking about like how it changed him as a person in general. Maybe it helped him be more grateful for what he does have, or maybe like realize that he's very lucky to be away from it now. Like, we'll never know.
That's probably what it is. Yeah.
Offer him a new perspective on life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we really don't get, especially against like this white background whenever the interviewer, like they come on, we don't really get a lot about how it affected them after. We don't really get that. We kind of just get it from like how the film portrays these people. It feels like you walk away with this feeling that they're like all fine after, which is obviously they're not. They're seriously messed up, because like that's a horrible thing to like go through. But the film doesn't frame it that way. Like it leaves you thinking kind of, and I'm wondering if that's purposeful, because it doesn't want a complete doom and gloom. So it's not going to show the after effect, like the PTSD, the trauma, the, you know, all these things that they will probably live for the rest of their lives with.
Well,
I don't know.
I think it might be hard to do that because the documentary came out like right after they got released, so they might not have like.
No,
Well,
I think it came out in 2008 is the thing.
Yeah, because they had to have time to like film everything and talk to them.
Oh yeah,
so
but I mean, I feel like the true.
Oh,
like,
never mind. I
everlasting-
lied. Sorry. It was 2006. My bad.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I feel like obviously like some stuff would have shown up, but like maybe like not everything would have like kind of came out within that time period. It might have taken them maybe a couple more years. You know what I mean? But I think I do agree. I was like, when the movie ended, I kind of like wish I knew a little bit more about like what happened afterwards to them, like especially like the way that they view not only like their own government, but also like the United States government. Because like when you think about like British people and Americans, they are very close to one another. And I think it would be interesting thinking about just like how they would view America now, going like after going through all that, and how that would like have changed their perspective.
Yeah.
Well, I also think what was really interesting to me was the fact that this happened during the 9/11 attacks, and those weren't mentioned at all. There was no
It was
mention
directly
of them.
after, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was still like a huge thing, and there was no mention of it at all. Like I was like waiting for someone to like, I mean, they mentioned Osama bin Laden a lot,
Right.
but there
I
was
think they mentioned it one time. They're like, "This is you with the guy that orchestrated 9/11." Like that was.
Oh
it.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think there was one.
Yeah.
But it really wasn't kind of. It
I
felt
think it
very
just kind of-
disconnected. It felt like very disconnected from the history that we know, I feel like. And I'm wondering if maybe, I don't know.
I definitely noticed it, but I feel like it's kind of implied. You know what I mean? I feel like it's expected of like the audience member to know that like they're in Afghanistan in like 2003, like right after 9/11. So I don't know.
Actually,
It's a very interesting choice.
I think that they didn't mention 9/11 on purpose because like American viewers are gonna watch it, and as soon as they mention 9/11, they're gonna be like, "Oh, your opinion doesn't matter anymore," because like Al Qaeda still did it and things like that.
Right, yeah, because 9/11's been hijacked as by like these like patriots. Like it's become like a very nationalistic thing. It's like
Yeah.
yeah, it's really yeah, because I mean I know there's so many people, like one of the street just down from my house is named after a cop that died on 9/11, like Diana or something, Diana Street or something. Like it's named, like there's people like in my neighborhood that are like still honored, every like firefighters. But then these people hijack it and they turn it into like this rah rah America, like, you know, America great, America victim, America like not, yeah. So it just
yeah.
Oh, I get it. Oh, it's a very interesting. It's very like I don't know, like a fragile subject. I guess like it's very like it's like you're watching like a tightrope kind of talking about it, because like there is a sense of like, yes, it was, you know, obviously it was terrible, right? It was a terrible thing, but also like, yeah, I don't know if it's an excuse for a lot of the things that we've done over the past, you know, 20 years. So it's very, I don't know, it's kind of a fine line to walk.
I think they just like they needed to make sure that America was clearly like the problem here and like the antagonist. Or they didn't want to give America a different, their own say, and they made sure that they used like clearly biased news clips to like amplify that like they don't care that they're not actually Afghan citizens, or like they don't care that they're British.
Right.
Was this a British film or an American
Yes.
film?
It's British.
Okay, I
Yeah.
think that's also important to think about when thinking about how they portray America. Because like even if like you could say you agree or you disagree with the portrayal of something in like a docudrama, but like there is no true like this is how it is. Like they're all portrayals, and maybe some portrayals are more accurate, but it's still a portrayal because it's still something that they thought about. How are we gonna frame this? How are we gonna like, you know? So yeah, I
Ever
wonder how
think
that.
about how the directors, because as I continue to look through Beatty's article, I wonder if it's possible they only showed what they wanted to show. For example, I'm curious that like the actual
I think that's
survivors
what the article was like
could
trying to
have
get
wanted
to.
more. They could have wanted Diego, like, we don't know. Like, they could have wanted to speak more on how they felt after. But as it's discussed here, like, everything that's truthful, just because if you don't include something, you're not inherently lying.
Right. You like cherry pick the truth type of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was gonna say something after that, but I forgot it completely.
Okay.
Amanda, did you want to say something?
There was also like the article was talking about like the perspective of the camera and how like the camera depicts like the truth of things. I think something that I liked about this movie is when they were filming like them getting bombed at night, and like you couldn't see anything, and like the camera was like filmed like on kind of static looking thing, which looks like what you would see at night in the first place. And like it's all like blurred and rushed and like very fast paced, and I think that is a really good point of view perspective that they did.
Yeah, I think the way that it was filmed was really good. Like it looked a lot like an actual like I guess proper documentary.
Yeah,
like it looked
the
very
less quality
legitimate.
Camera.
Right.
I liked that they used the less
Mockumentary a
quality
little.
camera.
I could see a little, even though it's not, I could see a little of mockumentary aspects in it.
Right. Like the beginning shots and everything, like the way it kind of felt like I guess like they talked about this in the article, like the kind of cliche of like the shaky camera and stuff like that, and how they use that a lot.
Blair Witch
Project showed up a good bit. Yeah.
Well, that's not even a cliche, because like, I mean, when you're out in the war zone with a camera, it's going to be shaky. Like you're not going to be focused on like keeping your camera steady. You're going to be focused on like watching what's around you, like partially because you want to catch things on camera, partially because like you are in an area where, you know, it's not safe. Like your body is like instinctively going to be on edge. So, and then while you're holding that, it's going to translate to the camera. And I think they did that really well. It felt very, very natural. It did not feel like they were forcing like a documentary. It felt like a documentary. And then the fact that it feels like a documentary makes it feel real. And you have to remind yourself constantly that it's not, it is actors. And I think that was also interesting.
Any final thoughts as the timer goes down?
Oh, geez, yeah.
Oh, man. I don't know. I think this kind of film does a good job of like showing the ways that like a narrative can be portrayed through a documentary, right? Like it does a good job of setting up like the protagonists and who are supposed to be like the good guys in the story, and then like the antagonists of the story, and like applying that to real world scenarios, and how like it's changing the narrative on the way that we would view the conflict in the Middle East by portraying the like Americans as the bad guys in a way.
Definitely.
Something that I noticed, like the dialogue when they're being interrogated, that didn't seem very real.
Yeah, I think
It did, but it didn't. Like you could tell, like I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually how they talked to them, just because like, you know,
you also have to
like,
think about like
imbalance
it
of
is
power,
actors. Like there's such a
racism.
thing as bad actors.
Right.
Like
they're actors. Yeah.
there is such a thing as like, you know, not being a good actor.
Yeah.
Like they could have been bad
Right.
actors
That
and they
could
could have
also
been
be on the
overacting.
director though too. It could have been bad direction.
I think it's a bit of
I'm pretty
both.
sure that they directed it though.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think no, the director was a different. It was like some white guy, some British white dude.
Because I feel like it's
I
a
think-
very different type of
think
acting
it could be
if you're
wrong.
in a docudrama. You are acting as if the
Right.
camera isn't there in a way, or you're acting as if the camera is there and it's you're acting as if you are a real person that's been caught on camera. And I feel like maybe
Right.
not every actor has that skill set to do that. They can't really do that. And so it comes off weird. It comes off as being like unnatural. And I feel like maybe that's part of what it was.
That
Something
could
that
also be a way
casting
it
decision.
falls from the truth.
Something that kind of threw me off is like the props that were used. Because like I don't know, I have like a lot of family that's been in like the military, and so like some of the attention to detail is like some of the things that I noticed, and a lot of it was really weird. Like a lot of like uniforms were just kind of like they don't know, that's like what really kind of broke like the immersion, because like up until the point where the Americans showed up, it was really immersive, and then when they showed up, like I don't know, some of the props just kind of threw me off, because like I've seen a lot of like those uniforms and what they look like, and they have those, and I'm like, that's a little weird, and like the way they look kind of just took me out of it, and then like the way they started acting was just kind of weird, and I don't know. Like once the Americans showed up, everything kind of went like downhill for me.
Yeah, that feels like a very important aspect. I feel like the movie got better for me. Well, I feel like the whole movie was very good, but I feel like it's like
It was a good movie.
depiction of like the brutality was very powerful for me.
Yeah.
I felt like the
I
fact
mean-
that they dragged it on was really important because it made you feel like you were them, like this like senseless like beatings and just like
Yeah.
violence just being dragged on for like most of the movie. Like the second half of the movie was all like in that camp. I mean,
Yeah. The movie felt a lot longer than an hour and a half. It felt like much,
and that was
longer.
totally purposeful. That was totally
Yeah.
So
No,
I was actually at a certain point, I was like, and this was partially because it was late on like, you know, Monday night and I was
Yeah.
like tired, but it was also partially because like I was thinking like, oh my God, like when is this gonna end?
Yeah.
When is this going to end? And I think they knew. I think that was a very purposeful decision on the
No, they
director's
definitely
part.
made it feel like, I don't know, I think had they done a little bit better on the props, and this could just be a thing of like the budget. I don't know, like how much money they had to make the movie, but I think had they done a little bit better, it would have felt like a very good depiction of like actually being in a camp, like tortured every day for like years on end. Like there was one movie that did something similar. I forgot what it was called. It was about like an American pilot that got shot down and like over the ocean, and how they were captured by like the Japanese, and like they did a good job of making you feel like of showing like what it's like to be kind of captured. I think if they had done something similar, it would have been really good. Like it would have done a good job of like showing that emotional damage.
I think their portrayal of American soldiers is also just like a British critique of Americans in general, I think.
Yeah.
Like I don't think the uniforms were what they were actually wearing.
Another way it falls from the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like if I remember correctly, they were just wearing like standard camo, but they don't wear that anymore. At least not.
The camo was right, but they didn't have like any of like the insignias. Like it was just like something you would get from like a Halloween shop type of thing. Like it wasn't
exactly.
Right.
All right. So I guess
It's a good movie, though.
I think we're
I
good.
guess that's a good place to wrap up for now. this has been, this so overall, it's kind of a very powerful movie too.
Mhm.
All
I
right,
enjoyed it, though.
so it's been a really great experience working with you all this past semester. And to celebrate this being our last video, let's do this.
Oh
Oh
god.
God.
Oh god.
I
Oh,
don't
they
mind
made you a
words.
circle again.
Yeah,
Why
see
is it
you a
always-
circle.
I don't know why it's done this.
The Looney Tunes ending.
All right,
Yeah.
well,
Okay.
bye.
Oh
Bye.
jeez. Okay.
Bye, everybody.